Hey everyone, wanted to do a video about a very particular type of Yakut knives. Not the knives themselves so much as the sheath that they come with. This is oxtail wrapped wood used for sheath. You have probably seen these if you've been interested in this sort of knife. And so I wanted to go into some details. I have a whole bunch of different ones here, so I'll talk about all the differences and similarities. Until recently, actually, this was kind of a secret they were trying to keep of how to make them. But the new generation has been changing kind of the attitude towards that and made some videos recently about the process of making these, the way that they make the inner liners of wood and then wrap it with kind of like wet leather forming, wrap it with oxtail. Anyway, so as you can see, they come in all shapes and sizes depending on who makes them. So let's start talking about some things. So first of all, they all obviously share the same basic construction. So what it is it's kind of hard to see on the video, but there's wood on the inside. So basically this whole thing is made of a couple solid pieces of wood that are connected and shaped to the particular blade, glued on the inside there. And I don't know which way is easier for the camera to see. And then they make a hole at the top, put some horsehair braid usually through. Sometimes it's a leather, a little piece of leather that you can hang it off the belt with. But typically, yeah, it's this braided horsehair that you see on other Yakut knives. They go through this hole, right? Then they just get attached here with some wire or something and epoxied. Extremely light, pretty durable. The one thing that you need to know about these things is the actual oxtail on the outside does not like getting wet. So if it does, you'll need to dry it and make sure that it doesn't come off or warp too significantly. On the inside, so here's one big thing that needs to be covered. Again, hopefully you can see some of this. As you can see, like this one's pretty thin and you can see through on top here. So one school of thought is basically you try to get as close to the wood at the top as possible, so there's almost no gap between the oxtail and the wood, and so it doesn't have much of a neck, right? As opposed to this guy, which has a neck. The neck is nice for keeping the knife in, right? Because it's kind of like forming kydex around your knife. The downside to that is that now you've got two different materials, right? And they can they expand and contract in at different rates depending on the temperatures and the humidity. So what they usually do is put a lot of layers of beeswax on the inside, so that keeps it together and keeps it from deforming. If it does get wet and gets deformed, what you usually do is just make sure you wrap it again against the blade, kind of like you would reform kydex, and then let it dry, right? So it's not the end of the world, you can do it. Also, let's see, these two also demonstrate a couple different ways to make the bottom. As you can see, this one is wrapped. Let me try to show it. Hard to focus. But as you can see, there's no hole here. Basically, it's all kind of comes together. This is the more common way, where you have this opening at the bottom. And then, yeah, usually there's some epoxy on the bottom or something. Anyway, yeah, the way you take the knife out again is traditionally you kind of put the thumb on this, right? Push it back, slide it out, and then you have your blade. What else was I gonna say about this? So in that sense, they're pretty similar. Oh yes, so in terms of the color, you can see, for example, on these two, pretty different color. I'll show you some other ones here. I'm not sure what the color comes from. Probably some oils or whatever they treat this with. Depending on who the maker is, they may do more buffing and smooth it out. Like this one's really smooth. This one I actually had to do some work on with some fine grain paper, right? And what else is there? Yeah, so sometimes they come pretty rough on the outside and you need to smooth them out. You don't have to, but I like them smooth. Let's see, here's another one. Oh yes, about the, you can see that the way that the horsehair braid is wrapped around the sheath is a little different, right? So this, I think, is the most typical, is where you kind of have that double loop through and then they come together and get attached. Then there's this way, which leaves this part blank and just has the attachment on one side. This one actually came with free piece of horsehair braid that was through, that I put through, and then I just tied a knot and epoxied it so it doesn't come apart. And I actually like this a lot. It's very simple, very clean, but it works really well. The one thing with these guys, the more traditional type, when it comes already done for you, is that they tend to kind of stick out in a lot of knives. You'll see that in a second. So this one's really nice and flows along. So that's not a problem. Okay, anyway. Oh yeah, this one actually has another example of a little like sharpener or striker sometimes they put on here, right, inside of the sheath itself. Again, it's kind of like doing stuff with Kydex. When it's wet, you can attach things to it and have it solidify and keep it in place. This one here, the nicest specimen I have probably. You can see the sheath is still plain. It came very nicely polished and everything. This one has pure white, one color, or beige, I guess, horsehair braid. Also has the no gap at the top here, small neck style. The bottom on this one actually is kind of in between. It's done really nicely finished up, so there's actually, I think, a piece that was glued through here to make it look like it's one piece, and it's buffed so it's nice and smooth. Okay, and now, oh yeah, let's talk about this one before I get to the last two. This is an example of a neck type sheath for these. Again, same thing, except now it's got two holes on the two sides, right, so you can put the braid through. The braid actually, it works really well for some things. It's very durable. The one thing I do not like about it, it's a little, it's irritating on your skin, so you don't want this worn without like a hoodie or something. But yeah, it will last, and it doesn't matter if it gets wet and such. But yes, if you want to have contact with skin, you probably want to have leather instead of this. This guy is very nicely done on the inside. Again, no neck basically, and almost flush at the top. The bottom on this one is made for drainage, so you can see it's actually hollow all the way through, but nicely rounded. They're all super light, so you'll never notice carrying them. Again, because there's all this wood on the inside, it's very safe for the knife. This one's done so you can reverse the knife. You know, if you're working it on the neck, it's completely ambidextrous. It can go this way or the other way. Doesn't matter because it's square on the inside. Don't know if you can see that here. Sorry, it's really hard to tell the light in the camera. But anyway, the cutout on the inside here is square, so it can go in either way. And because, you know, there's some gap depending on which way you put it in, but it stays. This is the way I think it was molded, so that works a little better. Okay, let's move on to the last couple here. So here's, before I talk about the art on the sheath, this one has an example of really nicely done. Everything's great. There's just a little too much of this wrap here, and with the epoxy, and as you can see, makes the horsehair stick out, and there's not a whole lot you can do because it's all very tight. So yeah, so that's where I was saying I do like the option of just kind of having it done your way, but it takes some effort, obviously. Again, this one is done with that cutout on the bottom, and it has a neck, so it's very secure. Maybe a little too secure. There we go. Right, and that's the danger of having the neck, is that it can either become loose or too tight. I tend to keep the knife in there the whole time so it doesn't really come loose, but it does tighten up sometimes. It is treated very well with beeswax, so it's very tough, and it should be pretty impervious to weather, but again, I wouldn't rely on that. This one has a beautiful example of artwork, right? So here's my custom drawn puma on there, the cougar. You can see a lot of these guys do these different designs. This one is an example of something made in acrylic paint with color. I don't know what they do to make sure that it doesn't get worn off or washed off, but again, I wouldn't get it too wet. So yeah, so some of these come with very intricate, very beautiful patterns. Let me show you this other one. This is an example of a different type of drawing. I think this is just ink, not paint. Maybe it's some kind of paint. I think it's just ink. So as you can see, it usually has that light background kind of with very intricate drawings. I love this one. This maker has also recently, he makes really, really tough knives. I think I might have talked about him in some other video. These are like really hardcore user, even though they're still extremely light, but they feel very solid. He lately started doing more bolsters with, I think this is moose on here, not sure. But anyway, as I think I don't know if I've covered this in videos or not, but I have posted about this on Instagram. You can see he's got that clip point on the blades, so reinforced point for piercing. Very functional. Finish is actually a lot better. I think he used to make them more rough, but these are much cleaner versions lately, and again with a sheath that comes with this beautiful drawing, it's a really nice package. This one has a neck, and it is thick though. It's thicker than most others, I think, and as you can see, there's a lot of wax on keeping it together. So yeah, so I really, really like this one. The only thing I didn't like about it is that the loop and the hair was on the other side, and it kind of just stuck out a little bit, so I trimmed it just a little, cut the hairs that were sticking out, right like that, so I only have the ones that flow down along the lines of the sheath. Put it on the other side. I might epoxy this piece over here so it doesn't wobble, but it doesn't really matter. It's pretty secure. Ends up with the double loop. As traditionally they're carried like this on the left side, so you put your thumb on the sheath and you take the knife out. Yeah, so anyway, so I think in the summer or late spring I'm gonna try this one out with on some hikes with my backpack and see. I've taken a few of them out before. I want to see how this one does too. The more basic plain one. Oh yeah, and for the knives themselves, just a quick little thing. You can see the knives on the inside can be very different, right? These two are about as different as they can get. Long, kind of slim, narrow blade with that thin, clean, polished fuller versus this guy, that hammered finish all the way through, very wide, rough on all sides, but still nicely done. The handle on this one is actually very smooth. This one's got a little bit of grit. I might treat it with another layer of oil, we'll see. Yeah, but other than that, both are perfectly functional. Very nice knives. There was one thing I was going to say, and the braid. This is the only one I have that's an example of this more string-like thin one. Usually they come in this flat, sometimes double thickness braid like this. That's the more typical, and like the guy here for the neck, right? It's flat and thick. I actually like this. I thought I had my doubts in the beginning, but I do like it because it would not be, you know, so the one, oh, that's right, that's the one thing I forgot to mention. The one thing that is the danger of the flat ones is because it's horsehair, it kind of tends to shape over time. So like I had it hanging like this on a nail or something, and as you can see, there's a little bit of a kink in it now. It will go away, but I need to hang it on something a little wider now to straighten it out. And this more ropey stuff will probably not have that issue because it is not flat and it won't take another shape quite as readily. Okay, so I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover in this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment. I'm happy to talk more about these.